good afternoon. You're watching Closing Trades on ET Now. I'm Anisha Jain, with me Saisha Faredi, and the closing trades today are looking much better than what we saw over the last 3 days, because today there's a bit of a green on the screen. For the last 3 days, it was all about consolidation, but today at least we're holding around that 21,650 mark. All thanks to the real estate pack, to be honest, because that index has seen the biggest single session surge which has been there in the last 2 years, and of course a lot of its constituents, the likes of Sobha, Lodha, Brigade and a lot more, are sitting at all-time high levels. You also have Infosys, Bajaj Finance as well as Axis Bank. These are the three heavyweights which are contributing quite a bit to the Nifty up move. So Infosys, for instance, is up around 2%, as one of the biggest contributors there, as well as Bajaj Finance, which is high by around 4%. And some of the power stocks are clearly powering ahead. NTPC is one of your top gainers at the index level with gain of around 4%. Torrent Power has surged 9 to 10% after it signed that big 40,000 crore MOU with the Gujarat government ahead of the Vibrant Investor Summit in Gujarat. And then Reliance Power, some of those beaten down names also perking up. So again, it's the broader markets which is a lot more vibrant, but today at least there's a bit of a green on screen.
Oh yeah, it is. And I'm just looking at the strength within the realty pack. Look at the moves on a Godrej Properties right now. It's scaling higher by over 8% as we speak. DLF is higher by about 6%. That, of course, is the Nifty Realty 6.5% move intraday graph. There are months when the real estate index would move that much. There's not just DLF, but there's Oberoi Realty as well, which is higher by about 5.5%. And Shobha Developers, of course, is higher by 19%. There's, of course, a Motilal Oswal is one of the top picks for 2024 as well, wherein they see an upside potential of about 25%, and they've put a target price of 1,400 on that particular stock, clearly on its fast way to actually clock that. Not just that, they're saying that, they've got a very strong pipeline which is going to support their pre-sales growth, and they're set to outperform in terms of growth in the year to come. Torrent Power, of course, Anisha flagged off this one particular gainer, but there's news flow as well attached to that. They've signed an MOU worth about 47,000 odd crore rupees with the Gujarat government, and this stock has really been on a tear from the word go today. And then, of course, Q3 updates still trickling in. You've got some coming in, good numbers coming in from Innocent Bank, from IEX, from Angel One. That really is the context right now, in line from Bajaj Finance, although that's a big mover in trade today. AU Small Finance, or for that matter, Ujjivan as well. Bajaj Finance actually is a decent number. That stock will just come up for you on your screens as well. One of the key gainers today, and right now as well, the top Nifty gainer with a 4.25% move. But stark as it may be, we're clearly defying the global trend, because most global markets, at least Asia, did close down in the red. European stocks, though, have opened higher. The outlook for rate cuts clearly is in focus from the Fed. But that said, let's bring on board Kunal as well as Kush and figure out what they're making of the trading day so far. And Kunal, hi, afternoon. Let me start off with you. Much unlike what one thought when we walked into trade today, we've not done bad at all.
Yeah, I think it's a good day for the markets. The Nifty is back again about that 21,600, 650 odd mark. The Bank Nifty is also inching back closer to that, or about that 48,000 mark on the spot levels. The premiums have come back for both the indices. And I think the action today is more towards the mid caps and small caps, because both of these indices have made a fresh high for themselves. So I think it's more like a usual kind of a market day, what we've been seeing over the last 2.5 odd months, where you've seen the mid caps, small caps outperforming, as well as the index, benchmark indices, the Nifty and many of the other sectors trying to move in sync with the overall market tone.
Okay, so that's the take at the index level. But Kush, what should one do with the real estate pack? A lot of movers there, and interestingly, the names that hadn't moved, the likes of Century Textiles, Rustomjee, AK Keystone Developers, they're all moving towards the second half of the trading session. Are there any other names which you're spotting that have been a bit of an underperformer and likely to move?
Hi, first of all, very good afternoon to you, the entire team, and all the viewers. Well, you're right. To answer your first question, what should one do with the entire real estate pack? I think, ride the wave. Just because these stocks have shot up, too fast, at least in the last couple of sessions, doesn't mean the rally is over. In fact, most of these stocks, if you see, the volumes are picking up and they aren't even close to the overheating territory. So most of them just hold on to, these ride the momentum. One stock that we've had on our radar, and we've recommended to our clients as well, is Shriram Properties. That's one stock that has not really made the cut on a lot of lists, and that's the one that we've been tracking. It's performed fairly well. So apart from your big names like Godrej and Prestige, Shriram Properties is also something that we've got on our radar.
That's quite an interesting pick there and quite unusual at that as well. Shriram Properties, which is a buy coming in from Kush right now. Let me also welcome on board Mayuresh Joshi and figure out what he's making of the market right now. Mayuresh, hi, afternoon. Let's have your word first on realty, because after an excellent 2023, seems like it's raring to go this year too. Just looking at the gains today.
Afternoon, Aisha. First of all, I think let me wish you, Anisha, the entire team at ETNA and all the viewers of ETNA a very healthy, wealthy and a prosperous 2024. Having said that, I think the kind of momentum that real estate stocks are witnessing today clearly indicates the kind of demand momentum that all these stocks are having. Any new launches that are coming through are getting lapped up pretty easily. And once we've seen that the real estate cycle, once it enters that mid phase, there is further acceleration. We are exactly at that midpoint in the real estate cycle, which carries on for 6-7 years, probably in the third or fourth year, which means there is further acceleration that can be expected in the next few quarters and couple of years as well. Having said that, the kind of unsold inventory that is coming off the books of all the developers and the pre-sales velocity that is happening is clearly going to give momentum in terms of cash flows and the reported numbers as far as the next few quarters are concerned. The second element is the deleveraging that is happening on the balance sheet as well. So a lot of players are deleveraging their debt to a large extent, which is also a very healthy sign. And the combination of demand and supply, both is probably expected to pull up the expectations of how profitable earnings will play out for the sector as a whole. So the momentum can very well continue. My own take is that real estate ancillaries, plywood stocks, Century Ply as an example, Green Ply, Green Lam. So plywood stroke laminate stocks have not done as greatly as the real estate stocks have. They should be a proxy to the real estate play as well. Numbers have been pretty okayish so far, and therefore I think the expectations in terms of input costs stabilizing, demand coming back, and that reflecting on better volumes going forward with better realizations should result into good operating leverage as we see. So I think there might be a good chance of a good EPS and an RS rating upgrade as we see at markets with India. And therefore these ancillaries, Aisha, should also probably be kept on your radar to do well over the next few quarters.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. The building material and the rest of the space also is likely to follow suit, perhaps. Just wanted to complete that point on Century Textiles, because they had just come out with a presentation. They're talking about the gross development value of around 5,100 odd crores that they're expecting in FY25, and that's the reason that stock has now surged 11%. Let's pull up some of those graphics as well, because they're talking about the next leg of projects which they have in development, and project-wise they have given the gross development value as well as the potential square feet. So in Worli, there are a couple of properties coming on board, the east and the west, and then apart from that as well in Thane, Bengaluru, they've come out with a slew of launches, and for each of the launch, what kind of gross development value are they expecting over the next few years, because that's a very high number that they've put for themselves in terms of 2,700 crores for a property and the likes, and it adds up to quite a bit. So that's the reason that stock is now flying away in the trading session. It's high up around 11%. But one stock which has been flying away since the start of the day has been Sobha. It's up around 18%. Let's go across to Gaurav to get a sense as to why Motilal Oswal has picked this stock as one of their top bets, because if you look at the entire sector, you have seen that there has been a massive re-rating in the year gone by, but they're expecting that this year is going to be quite similar. Let's go across to Gaurav and find out more.
Sure. So let's talk about the Sobha, and Motilal Oswal has listed this stock as a top pick of their 2024 bet, and the stock they have given an upside of 20% and the target price of 1,400 rupees per share. Now if you look at the stock performance, the stock has already soared almost by 15% in today's trade. So let's see what the company is exactly doing. So Motilal Oswal believes that they are set to outperform the growth in terms of the growth going ahead, and this is also going to be led by the profitability of the company. Now they believe that company is focusing on unlocking their vast land parcel that they already have. They already have like 30 to 40 million square feet of the projects which may come in the next 3 to 4 years, and this is going to boost the growth CAGR and the pre-sales by 25% over the next 2 years according to Motilal Oswal. They also believe that they are exploring the opportunities outside their specific regions. So for example, if you talk about Bangalore, it used to contribute around 70% in FY20 to their sales, and now it contributes only around 54%. So they are diversifying their portfolio as well. Let's talk about the performance. The company has already reported 30% CAGR over the last 2 years, and the company's net debt has also reduced almost by 1300 crores in the last 2 years, and now it stands only at 0.6 times the net debt to equity ratio. If you talk about the EBITDA, management has guided that EBITDA can be in a range of 30% going on, and that is why Motilal Oswal also believes that if you look at the peer comparison, the stock is trading almost 25 to 40 percentage lower than their peers, and that is why they had given a bullish target on SOBA, and we already saw that SOBA has already performed almost 15% in today's trade. So it is really interesting to see how the SOBA will perform from these levels.
Okay, that's the take coming in on Sobha. Kunal, you've always preferred DLF and Godrej Properties, right? Would you go down the barrel and look at Sobha and the others?
Well, I'll add Anantraj Industries to that list. That's another name which I've been bullish on. All three of these stocks have been doing reasonably well, and it's really very difficult to try and pick and choose, any of the other stocks, because more or less when you try and club the returns for these stocks in a span of 3 months, 6 months, maybe 1 year of time frame, it could be more or less the returns which the stronger names from the real estate could probably garner. So for example, DLF over the last, I think 1.5 2 years has moved from 400 420 to now 700 750 odd mark for itself. Anantraj has moved from 100 110 to now I think 300 plus levels. And Godrej Properties of course has been doing reasonably well over the last many months, and today of course the stock is up some 8-9%. So it's very difficult to try and find a strong outperformer when you look at this in the time span of 3 months, 6 months. So I'll stick with these three names as of now, purely looking at the recent charts as well.
Okay. Kush, I wanted to discuss a couple of these index buzzers with you. NTPC, which is up almost 4%. What would you recommend there? And Infosys seems to be a bit of an outlier within the IT pack, because the rest of the IT pack, whether LTI, Mindtree, TCS, they're all down and out, but Infosys is holding strong today.
So let's take up NTPC first. The stock had seen a stellar move, had gone into seriously overbought territories for a while, but then some consolidation and some profit booking, and it's again within comfortable zones, at least from a momentum and an overheating perspective. From here on, I think the stock will course a new chart. It'll probably see levels of 340 and 345 in the coming weeks. The kind of volume pickup also that we are seeing, it's given a breakout above that 315 level after a couple of attempts. So I think this is here to stay. From here on, a fresh entry is warranted. As I said, 340, 345 are the targets that we're looking at, and 307 is a very strong support zone, so that should act as stop loss. As far as Infosys goes, well, again, today it might seem like an outlier, but again, on the whole, not a very encouraging setup. The stock's been under pressure, a very clear lower high pattern, reeling under its 20-day moving average for the last 2 days. So for now, for me, it's an avoid. I would consider this above 1530, but for now, I would just put it on a wait and watch list.
Okay, wait and watch list coming in for Infosys as of now. Let's take a look at some of the other movers as well, and let's revisit the list from yesterday. And some of the pharma names were holding out very well, everything from a Spark to a Biocon. All these stocks were quite a buzz in trade. What are they doing in today's trading session? A lot more tempered, or at least it looks so optically, given the moves that you're seeing within the realty pack. Mayresh, your thoughts? Because pharma is coming up on most people's radar as quite the contra bet right now.
Oh, it is. And to a certain extent, 2-3 things which might work in favor of pharma, Aisha. One, obviously, the product mix. So higher mix of specialty products and higher margin products, including the branded generics, will probably mean that pricing should remain in favor of a whole host of pharma companies. The second element is, in spite of what we've probably seen in terms of the generic drugs, both pricing and the margin related issues, they should largely stabilize going forward. And if or any of the FDA issues are resolved for a few of the plants, a significant portion of new launches that can come through can probably abet a lot of the earnings growth that can probably be seen in the next couple of years. Having said that, Sun Pharma, Cipla, and Lupin probably remain as holds in our global portfolios. From an earnings perspective, our take is that Torrent Pharma and JB Chemicals on declines or pullbacks can probably be looked at. Again, the key triggers remain same across both these stocks. Torrent largely into branded generics, which is more than 2/3 of their revenue. A large part of the revenue coming from branded means EBITDA margin should sustain between 29 and 30 odd %. Whole host of new launches expected from their Dahej facility, which should prop up earnings and return ratios as well. And similar for JB, domestic formulations have inched up quite significantly for JB Chemicals. You're also expected to see a whole chunk in terms of the CDMO business actually picking up steam in the next few quarters. And a combination of both this should reflect very positively on EBITDA margins, which is very, very similar to that band of Torrent of 28 to 30 odd %, resulting in better earnings growth because of stable margins. And again, expectations of new launches coming through, which should be better margins and accretive in terms of return ratios. So a couple of stocks on pullbacks can probably look at as we see it at market level.
Right. In fact, just today we were chatting with Nitya Balasubramanian as well of Sanford Bernstein, and she believes that the current rally in pharmaceuticals is longer term and is here to stay. Here's what she believes the prospects of the sector are.
If you are willing to accord the India premium on to the healthcare sector as well, I think it's trading at a similar premium to Nifty. That being said, from here on, we think a lot is priced in. The softer pricing environment is priced in. We are expecting 9-10% growth at least from the India market. The higher gross margins are priced in. In terms of significant delta from these levels, at least sitting here today, I don't have visibility into any big catalysts. But that being said, we don't see major downsides either. So it's possible that multiples, therefore, are sustained.
Okay, so that's the latest coming in on the pharma sector. But separately, in terms of the market, there are a lot of pockets which are interesting right now. Case in point, the kind of Q3 updates that we've got from the banking sector, and the smaller names, the likes of Utkarsh Small Finance Bank or even AU Small Finance Bank, have reported a very good growth. And of course, the big one, Bajaj Finance, again keeps surprising us with that 30% plus kind of growth rate. No wonder then that stock is up almost 4%. Mayuresh, within the updates that we've got so far from the banking and the financial services space, which ones are the ones that really took your attention?
So IndusInd Bank, Anisha, gave a decent set of numbers. And again, from a valuation matrix, it's not too expensive. So if they're able to carry on this trajectory, as they pointed out in Q3, and it seems to be a high probability that as we head into the next financial year, and in a scenario of a rate cut happening both globally and locally as well, the NIMs should bounce back very, very smartly. And because of their stable balance sheet performance so far, the expectations is the second half of the next financial year, they should be able to carry on the good show. Similarly, within the PSU pack, Bank of Maharashtra has delivered again a decent set of number. The overall business grew 18 odd %, the advances grew 20 odd %. And a similar story is playing out, though you will see NIMs probably getting compressed over the next couple of quarters. First half should show a steady state recovery and a significant one in the second half itself. Apart from this, I think what we probably like is also a smaller stock within the PSU universe called Bank of India, because most of the parameters that I spoke about in terms of asset quality pressures coming off, in terms of provisioning being relatively high, and a high saliency being put in terms of recoveries and upgrades. If that probably plays out for the better part of FY24 as well, the bottom line growth can be significantly higher and return ratios can also bounce back very, very sharply, specifically ROEs. So I think it probably fulfills most of the criteria that we look at Market Smith, including ROEs, including the kind of price action that we probably desire, are all getting set in, expecting fundamentals to probably remain steadfast for a whole host of these PSU stocks.
Okay, so still, positive on select PSU banking names, and Bank of India is one name that you like. But let me quickly bring on board Asesha as well to tell us the numbers in terms of the Q3 updates as well. Asesha?
Well, yes, first up, let's talk about Bajaj Finance. Very strong operational data for the quarter gone by. The stock is holding up nearly 4% Loan growth was very strong at about 31% or at about 26% on a year-on-year basis. AUM growth, meanwhile, was also very strong. It saw an uptick of a whopping 35% on a year-on-year basis. And Bajaj Finance is likely to surpass its FY24 guidance. Very strong operational data. The stock is holding up in trade today. Meanwhile, IndusInd Bank is also holding up. Deposits are up 13% YOY, while advances are also up nearly 20%. Angel One, another strong quarter for Angel One. The stock is holding up with an uptick of nearly 5%, where number of orders have seen an uptick of 21% on a month-on-month basis. Gross client acquisition is up a solid 54%, with ADTO or average daily turnover rising nearly 22% MOM. Their market share has also risen nearly 38 basis points on a month-on-month basis. Ujjivan Small Finance Bank, meanwhile, has also reported strong operational data for the quarter gone by. Deposits are up 29%, disbursements are up nearly 17%. Bandhan Bank, another strong quarter where loans and advances are up 19%, deposits are up nearly 15%. Let's also talk about AU Small Finance Bank. The numbers are largely in line with what the street was working with gross advances soaring nearly 20% on a YOY basis and deposits up nearly 31%.
Okay, Ashesha, we'll leave it at that. All those stocks pretty sensitive to their Q3 updates coming in. Bajaj Finance, of course, one of the top movers on the index today. We'll take a very quick break on that note. As we do that, hear out from Rajat Rajkharia as to where he thinks the profit pools are going to be created this year.
I don't know how much market delivers in 2024, and I think it's going to be a rather volatile year, right? Just because of the levels where we are starting, right? But I think the trend is more. And lastly, one thing that we got taught last year, right? India, while top down is very good, the opportunities on the bottom up are fantastic. So safe to say that 15-20% earnings growth is likely, not just this year, and that's what our estimates are also pointing out, right? And when you have aggregates at 15-20%, then you have to find out buckets which grow more than that, because those exciting growth sectors are the one where you typically try to compound your money. I think if we do base case 15% earnings growth, right? And I think that the rate cycle in the global markets end of this calendar year would be lower than where we are starting today. That's again a consensus that you would see getting built on. Assuming no re-rating, at least plus minus 2-3% should be the index return.
Okay, so that's the latest coming in terms of where the profit pools are likely to be created and what should be the earnings expectation for India in 2024. But other than that, Mayuresh, how are you approaching the markets right now, especially this, of course, the debate around large caps versus mid caps, small caps. Where are you seeing value right now?
So, Anish, I think the comfort obviously stays with large cap from a valuation perspective, because a whole host of mid-stroke small caps have run up quite significantly. So from a valuation stroke comfort level and a risk reward perspective as well, large caps obviously offer more margin of safety. So I think we are obviously creating a bucket and a pool in terms of the stocks on our watch list. ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, IndusInd Bank, as I said, within the banking names, Ultratech Cement within the cement pack, and also something like, if you point out Maruti within the four-wheelers. So I think large caps obviously have a certain margin of safety, but selective mid caps in certain pockets can be expected to do well as well. So out of the consumer discretionary, I think a few of the packaged companies is something that we remain very optimistic about. Case in point being Parag Milk Foods as an example, market leadership in value-added products. Milk prices, the procurement have come off, which means gross and EBITDA margin expansion. They're expanding their retail reach in the next couple of years, which should significantly add on to their margins as well. And therefore, a select category of these packaged foods should continue doing well in our opinion, as well as certain pockets within the capex, manufacturing and infra themes as well. So I think a few of these domestic cyclicals within the mid-cap universe should continue doing well. And a few of these large-cap across pockets, purely from a risk reward and margin of safety perspective, can continue doing well in FY24.
Right, okay, that's the take coming in on whether it's the choice of mid and small caps versus large caps. But for now, of course, you've seen the mid-cap index ebb off a bit. Of course, there are pockets of strength which continue there too, like for instance, real estate that we've been marking out. Cement as well is not looking bad at all, with India Cements leading the charts with almost a 5% gain. Actually, the ancillaries of infrastructure and realty, they are the ones which continue to hold out. Adani names looking very smart, and IndusInd Bank as well continues higher. ONGC2 is a big mover today, 3.25% higher there as well. And then, of course, you've got Axis Bank, Infosys, like Anisha earlier flagged off, Bajaj Auto after, the fact that the board is going to be mulling a buyback. 4 days from now, that stock was seeing a follow through to start off trade with, and from there it's eased out a little bit. But let's get in some closing ideas on that note. Kush, what's on your list?
One stock that I've been tracking, and has shown good strength is Jyoti Labs. Again, the stock was in a bit of an uptrend, consolidated a bit with a positive bias and has given a breakout today. So Jyoti Labs is on my radar. 514, 525 are the near-term targets, and 492 is where I would place my stop loss.
So that's a closing trade idea from Kush. What about you, Kunal?
So from the Birla group of stocks, Aditya Birla Fashion is something which is looking attractive, and that's a stock which is headed towards a breakout about 240 mark. It looks very attractive in terms of the volume pattern. So that's a stock which I've chosen for closing trade.
Okay, and I think from the IT pack, Birla Soft is the one that you like. Not from the Birla group, but nonetheless, just Birla Soft is the stock that you like, right? One of them. Okay, time now to head into a very short break. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll discuss more stock with our battery of guests.
Back with closing trades right here on 18 now. Let's welcome on board Varun Sabu as well, head equities at Anand Rathi Shares, to talk about what he's making of the market right now. Varun, hi, afternoon. Good to have you on the show, and Happy New Year from all of us. Just wanted to understand, what are the return expectations, considering this is going to be an eventful year? First half India elections, and then second half US.
Inviting us on your show. It is a happy new year. It's for everyone, right? I mean, the way markets have been, they've been too kind to us. But yeah, if we speak about elections, it's better to speak about the India side. At least the results which we saw of the state elections which went by, it is kind of it is getting consensus. It is getting into a consensus where there is a belief that there will be a strong majority again by the current government coming in. So there is a lot of euphoria around it, and that's what is reflecting in our markets. Continuity is always good, as I mentioned in the last interview also when I come on the show. So yeah, that's keeping the things quite exciting over here. In terms of US, it's difficult for me to comment, so I'll refrain from that.
Okay, fair enough. But Varun, I want your view regarding the FMCG and retail sector. But before that, let's listen into the management of V2 Retail, because it was quite a stark performance that the company reported in Q3 gone by versus the rest of the peers, because they've managed to deliver a 47% same-store sales growth, and that compares to 4% that V-Mart has done. So, of course, the area of operation is slightly different because V2 Retail has more presence in Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and Tier 3 cities at that. But a 47% kind of same-store sales growth has resulted in over 56% growth in terms of revenue, and no surprise then that the stock is up almost 25% in the week gone by. Let's listen into the management bite as to what they think the next year is going to be like for them as well.
Going forward also, we are looking to maintain a double-digit same-store sales growth. So I think that's our main target, and to also grow revenues at about 30% every year. If we see more footfalls coming into the same store, we assume that we are getting more market share in that particular market. So currently we will close this year at around 820, 830 rupees per square feet. So the target for next year is getting around 950 rupees per square feet of sales. And talking about expansion, I think in the next 12 months, we should be opening about 25 to 30 new stores. And we are focusing on the existing clusters that have been doing well for us, because that really helps us with the logistics and the marketing part of it. And we already have a brand presence there, so people know what V2 is. So it's easier to mature that store. So we are looking at geographies like Bihar, Odisha, UP, and Jharkhand, which have historically done well for us.
Right. Varun, which brings me to what is it that you're, foreseeing now for whether or not there is going to be a rural recovery? You are seeing some green shoots there, but not a sustainable one. Do you think there's likelihood that this year perhaps one can see the rural economy pick up?
You're asking me? Yeah. So,
Yes.
so yes, there is definitely. So rural has been doing fine. I mean, we have been of the view that rural has continued doing well. It's just that the pricing growth in the country was so strong. Not in the country, in fact, everywhere. If you see most products you look at, they all have literally doubled in the last 3 years, right? And still, we see all these consumer companies, be it consumer names like FMCG, be it discretionary names, be it auto companies, anyone. I mean, if you see, there's been a huge inflation we have seen. We have seen at least products going up between somewhere around 70-80% to about 100%. Despite that, we have been seeing volume growth across. So, and although the volume growth was marginal, it was somewhere between 0 to 5%. But now is the time when things have settled in terms of rural also. So they have adjusted to the new prices. It's not that prices are going up any further. This is the best time. Even if you look at the kind of auto numbers which got reported, I've been highlighting, I had come on this show and highlighted before also, something like a two-wheeler should do exceptionally well, which is very rural linked, right? Very positive still on the two-wheeler names, be it Hero Motocorp, be it TVS, be it Bajaj Auto still. And in fact, the monthly numbers which came, it's very important to look at the retail numbers, which was very, very strong. So it's clearly indicating that rural is coming out to be very strong, and I think that trend is going to continue.
Rural is finally bouncing back and you expect this trend to continue. Let's see what's trending in the market right now apart from real estate, because that's the only big area of interest right now. A couple of these financials are actually perking up, Kunal. Take a look at the charts of Poonawalla FinCorp. You also have Chola Investment Finance, which is doing well, and then New India Assurance, a not very volatile name, but still, if anything, on the charts.
So Poonawalla is something which is interesting. That's a stock which I've been tracking as well as have been bullish on from those 350, 360 levels. I think a month and a half out back for the stock, and where it formed a double bottom for itself. Right now, I think it's on the verge of a breakout of the previous high. It spent almost like a couple of weeks at this level of 430, 440 approximately. And my sense is if it breaks past about the 450 mark, even on a weekly closing basis, this could potentially be a very big breakout for the stock. From the other spaces, other stocks, L&T Finance is something which is also interesting. The stock has crossed about that 170 mark, which makes the stock coming back towards its multi-year high. Bajaj Finance is looking attractive. Even with this today's price up move of 3%, 4% plus for the stock above 7,700 levels, it's still formed a cup and handle towards a kind of a bullish swing breakout pattern for itself. So a lot of bullish formations from the financial services space, and this probably indicates that we may probably be getting into a phase where the financial services index can stand to outperform, and many of these large cap and the erstwhile underperforming peers, they can make a very strong comeback.
Okay, that's the take coming in on financials at large. As we discussed, Century Textiles, that as well is one stock which has been buzzing up in trade. Samit is here to tell us the possible reasons why it's holding up the way it is. Samit?
Well, if you see for Century Textiles, the real estate space entirely was buzzing in trade, and that a company had missed the buzz. I guess people did not realize that nearly 65% of its SOTP value was coming in from the real estate business, which included the ongoing real estate projects and the land bank of the company. The remaining 35 comes from textile and the paper business. And the company also came out with its presentation. Some incremental information coming in from the presentation is, firstly, they are saying that when it comes to the Worli East project, only 0.9 million square feet of the project has been so far launched, and the total project potential is close to 3.5 million, which means that around 2.6 million square feet of project is yet to be launched when it comes to Worli East. And when it comes to Worli West, the potential project size could be around 1.5 million square feet as per the company. Now, apart from this, the company is also looking to launch various other projects in different regions which have a potential value of more than 45,000 crore rupees as per company. Obviously, this will be spread over multiple multiple years. So it's not that next year or in the next couple of years the company will realize this value. Now when it comes to value, if you see in FY23 the gross development value realized by the company was close to 563 crore rupees in FY24. This is expected to increase to around 3,000 crore rupees, which is a jump of nearly 5 times if you see. And in FY25, which is the next to next financial year, this is expected to rise again by around 5,000 to around 5,100 crore rupees. So this shows that the project launches will definitely add a strong value on the top line front for Century Textile, and hence we are seeing such kind of an up move when it comes to Century Textiles in trade today.
Okay, so that's a word coming in on Century Textiles. In fact, Varun, talk to us about your view on not just the real estate pack, but the building materials as well. Suddenly, the wires and cable segment had seen quite a bit of uptake. Then,
Quite positive on the entire spectrum. In particular, if one has to go for, I still believe DLF has a lot of value. DLF looks very, very good to us. Still, we have been very positive on the name. We continue being very positive on it.
point taken. So that's the view coming in on the real estate sector. But moving on, on the losing side, PVR has been coming under a lot of pressure of late. What's your view, Kush, on PVR and the other QSR names as well? Because fundamentally as well as they haven't done much in the last few weeks. Kush, the question is for you.
No, as far as PVR goes, again, we've seen a bit of selling pressure, and all the volume spikes that we've seen off late have been, when the stock was on the way down. So it doesn't really augur too well. It's trying to breach its 20-day moving average, but hasn't really been successful. So my take is, 1650, 1640 is a very strong support zone. If it holds on, then the stock might perhaps consolidate here for some while. If it doesn't, then the 200-day moving average, which is close to 1590, that will be the next immediate level on the downside. Some of the QSR names, as you mentioned, RBA, if I take as a case in point, after a big move, the stocks are again under a bit of a pressure. I think all of these names, especially the ones that have run up, will come in for a round of profit booking, especially when we see some sector churn. So I wouldn't have too many names from this sector on my radar just yet.
Okay, that's the take coming in on the QSR space right now. The one stock which has been holding up very smartly has been, of course, from the hospitality space, since we are on the subject of discretionary spends. Look at Indian Hotels. That's, I think, made a fresh high for itself. Right, Kunal?
Yeah, seems like.
Today itself,
yes.
yeah. So,
460
more moves higher, or would you bet on some of the smaller names within the hotel space?
I think it depends on the composition of portfolio. So, for example, if someone has been bullish on Indian hotels prior, then there is no need to add the stock at current levels. But at current levels, there is, I think, Chalet Hotels, Lemon Tree, which have given recent fresh breakouts for themselves, and they're coming back after months of consolidation for themselves. I think a couple of days back we had a strong price action move for Lemon Tree, which looked attractive. Oriental Hotels, I think, closer to 120 or 125. That's also a chart which has been springing up quite well. It formed a triangular pattern, I think, closer to 110, 15 levels, then managed to break out of that triangular pattern mark, which is almost like a 20-25 pointer pattern for the stock, which means closer to 135, 140 could be a potential near-term target for Oriental Hotels. So I think it's the entire space which has been looking attractive. I've been bullish on Indian hotels prior also. So I think from current levels, if I have to look to add, Chalet, Lemon Tree as well as Oriental Hotel would be the stocks to look out for.
Okay, point taken. But I think clearly the action is in the real estate pack, and people are not, checking which stock is it. If there's anything in the real estate pack, it seems to be that there's a basket buying happening. Case in point being Signature Global. It was fairly quiet at the start of the trading session, and now since that hadn't moved, that also is perking up. You also have Prestige Estate, which is inching higher now further, and Sunteck Realty too had started off fairly quiet. It's now up around 8%. So a lot of these stocks continue to gain the momentum as well. But let's take it across to Sharad to get an idea as to what the buzz is in the dealing room right now. Sharad, tell us which is the stock which has been doing rounds in the dealing room.
Stock in focus we are having is Rosari Biotech, and what we are hearing from the dealers is that in this cash market stock there is a sustained buying coming in the domestic institution category. Now the volumes also have picked up, coming up almost 4 times its 20-day average, and the key DIs already invested in the company as per the September shareholding pattern include the likes of UTI Mutual Fund as well as SBI Mutual Fund. Now, interestingly, stock did cross its 100 DMA levels also today in today's trade, and importantly, the channel checks what we have got is that there is a strong performance expected in their HPPC segment, which is nothing but the home personal care and the performance chemical segment. And overall, the volumes have also picked up over the last two trading sessions.
Right, okay, that's the take coming in on what the dealing room buzz is and what are the actively traded stocks being talked about. And it's clearly realty all the way, although there's a Hindustan Copper, there's India Cements as well, which is holding out well. IndusInd Bank, Bajaj Finance are all reacting to their quarterly updates. So all those stocks, of course, are looking good as well. Just want to bring out some of the other movers and tell you what else has been holding out. There's, of course, Tata Power, NTPC, both those stocks as well looking good. There's a PFC as well, which is holding higher by about 3.25%. And then REC also not being left behind, another 3% dash coming in there too. Varun, it clearly seems like, power is one of these stories, and especially, the plays which are now transitioning into renewables.
Absolutely. We spoke in the last interview also on this, that there's a major deficit in the country. It looks like a good 5-year plus story, and that's reflecting in all of these names. I don't see anything stopping these companies yet. These were extremely undervalued, were very cheap. There's been some covering on the front of the valuations, but they still are quite reasonable with the kind of opportunity they are holding up. And also one has to keep in mind that with a continuity in the government side, we can keep that there is a hope which is building on that. You will see the narrative of power for all and power availability being there continuing, and that you will see increased orders, which we are
So the ones that had run up well, HCL Tech and Persistent, are the two stocks that could perhaps come in for a bit of a profit booking furthermore from here on.
Right. Varun, would IT be the part of, or rather form part of the 2024 buy list, or is it a complete avoid still? We seem to have snapped that line. We'll just get back to him. But Kunal, once again, a good move on all these power plays, Tata Power, NTPC, PFC, REC, and I'm sure IREDA as well must be quite a buzz.
There's a surprise. I think our power is up some 18 or 19% today. So you may probably call it a bit of frenzy which may come by, because if stocks like these, they manage to move up higher by such kind of magnitude of 15-20%, then I think you may see some sort of froth building up. But I would still be bullish on the large cap or the more prominent pharma names. I think Tata Power at 335, 340 is still one of the stronger names to go buy. The stock, in fact, on the daily charts is on the verge of coming out of 2-3 weeks of consolidation after a 50 or a 60 point up move from 270, 275 for Tata Power. So that could be an interesting play from a short-term angle. And I think from a short-term angle, I would look out for another 50 points on the upside, which means closer to 375, 380 could be a potential target for the stock.
Varun was asking you about IT before your link snapped. What's the view for 2024? Avoid, or you think it's a good contra bet?
I think IT is a great bet to be in. IT stocks should do very well with a 6 to 12 month perspective at least. We need to recognize that this quarter is not that relevant a quarter for IT companies, but next year looks promising. There has been, so if we heard Fed yesterday, last night, speaking about rate cuts, etc., we heard them saying that nothing is happening in the near term. But still, that in the next 12 months, it's going to start somewhere. IT being valued on DCF globally now, we see a clear reaction. As soon as we see yields falling, it reflects on the Nasdaq, and will keep reflecting here as well. So from a valuation, from a DCF angle, they stand as a great bet. But on the business side also, with a perspective, if rate cuts start happening in US, you will see increased orders for IT companies going forward, and there's a hope which is building in, for IT companies 2 quarters down the line.
ABFRL, Trent, let's bring up those stocks as well, because of course, Trent continues to be at life highs, but ABFRL as well, as Kunal was also flagging out this stock earlier today, 2.5% higher for that particular stock, to 3,000 plus levels for Trent in any case. And Varun, I guess the dichotomy in the mind is always about valuations that you pay for some of these urban consumption themes, right? Be it ABFRL or Trent, the retail plays that is. But you think this is going to be a favored sector for times to come?
Yeah, so you have to see the growth that they are showing, right? The kind of growth we are envisaging for these companies going forward. We are looking at stupendous growth going forward, upwards of 30% or something around CAGR going forward. Particularly if we talk about AB Fashions, that stock hasn't done much. In fact, that has it's been because of their acquisition strategy that stock has been under pressure. But I think the kind of brands they have taken over, that paves the way for a very good long term. And if they can really milk it the right way, this stock stands as a very good idea to look forward for. Trent is a bellwether name, one of the best that you can get. Consistent track record, consistent growth, visibility being very strong. I don't see anywhere the rally stopping in these names.
Okay, that's the take coming in. Trent, which in the last 52 weeks alone has given you a 140% return. But let's just move on and let's talk about some of the other buzzers in trade. Kunal, since we're on the subject, let's revisit ABFRL. You quite like the charts, right, here?
Well, yes, and I think it's a very strong chart because after months of consolidation, so I remember I think in 2022, start or mid somewhere, the stock was almost at 350 odd levels. At a point, the stock was beaten down to 175, 180, which means 50% drop in the past 1 year or so. And then from that 175 odd levels, the stock spent almost 10, 12 months consolidating at this 175 to 220 odd band. Right now, the stock is showing signs of a price volume breakout. In fact, the weekly volumes for the stock so far clocked for ABFRL on the spot levels is one of the best volumes the stock has shown over the last, I think, 5 months or 6 months from the July-August highs. And the prices have managed to break past about the July-August highs for itself. So that itself tells you the kind of participation which has suddenly come back into the stock, and I believe that this is a strong indication of a breakout. My expectation is that the stock over the near term should climb back towards at least a 275 to 280 over the very near term, which means a potential upside of at least 10% from a short term view.
Okay, that's the take coming in on ABFRL. In the meantime, the stock that I want to bring up is Jupiter Wagons as well as BEML. There's a sizable 802 crore rupee contract that they've bagged from the Defence Ministry for military equipment. Jupiter Wagons, of course, has spiked up about 4.5%, and BEML, of course, has been a strong, steady show in any case, 2.6% higher for this stock as well. Varun, that's the other theme, right? Because the order inflows and the news flow on a daily basis tells you that both railways as well as defense is a story which is here for the longer haul, irrespective of whether or not the stocks have been exuberant or run up ahead of their fundamentals.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the same thing. The narrative continues, and with continuity, the two terms already in the government, if there is a possibility of a third, which is looking highly possible, this theme will not stop. In fact, we heard the defense secretary in one of the media interviews recently, where he mentioned that last year's ordering was nothing, that 1,20,000 crore number. He said that we are looking to order much, much higher, right? So where are these themes going to stop? They're not going to stop. These are all order book stories. As and more their order book grows, you'll keep seeing the re-rating happening in these names. So yeah, very positive on this space also.
Okay, that's the take coming in on defense as well as railways. Kunal, on the charts, what do you foresee for the more liquid names within the F&O universe?
So from the railways pack specifically, I would believe IRCTC could be a stock which one should be looking out for. I think closer to that 900 levels. That's something which looks attractive. And I sense that the stock should be inching towards a breakout, should be at least a 10 to 15% breakout potential for IRCTC, given the way the volumes have built up for the stock.
Okay, IRCTC, the only F&O stock there. Mildly higher today, but Kunal has conviction on this one. Also, by the way, this is the only one which hasn't participated in the rally that you saw in the rest of the railway names. But on that note, Varun, good to have you on the show as always. We'll let you go on that note and let's get in some BTST trades going. Kush, what's on your list?
Siemens is showing quite a bit of strength, has actually given a breakout past some of its key resistance zones. So Siemens is on my radar, from a BTST perspective or even from a near-term perspective. 4180, 4250 are the targets. 4020 is where I would place my stop loss. One stock that we discussed at the beginning of the show, which was Shriram Properties. These two very strong charts. We saw a very strong up move yesterday and a good follow through today as well. So at 138 is the target. 130 is where I would place my stop loss.
Right. Kunal, what about your BTST ideas?
So I'll go with L&T Finance from the financial services space as a buy, targets of 180. Stop loss could be kept at 165. And Tata Power is the other stock, which I think closer to 338, 339. Looks attractive for a contra bet on the upside. Targets of 350, stop loss at 333.
Okay, and on that note, let me take it across to Vinny as well and get in the closing trades. What's been buzzing up and what's been holding out? Vinny?
Absolutely, Aisha. Today, we did start the market on a somber note, but look at the Nifty managing to hold on to 0.7% in trade of gain, almost at the day's highest point. But what outperformed today was the broader markets. Looking at the mid cap as well as the small cap, clear outperformance coming in there, especially from the Nifty mid cap, ending almost at 1.7% uptick there. Sector-wise, most of the sectors have actually managed to perform quite well, and especially the Nifty Realty, that is the top sectoral gainer. Nifty Realty up 6%, more than 6% in trade. The highest single-day gain that we've seen coming in since October 2021. So yes, Nifty Realty is the outperformer today, standing tall as the Nifty Realty, and obviously the names that came in was Sobha. Strong gains on this one as well. Sobha Developers, because of the Motilal Oswal note that came in, where it becomes the top pick for Motilal Oswal in the realty space. So Sobha Developers up 16% as of now as well. Then we have Godrej Properties, DLF, Macrotech Developers. Across the board for realty, we've seen a very, very strong performance from most of the stocks over there as well. Let's pull up Bajaj Finance, the top Nifty 50 gainer today. Bajaj Finance, after its strong Q3 update, very strong AUM growth. Also, what we were expecting is seen for Bajaj Finance as well, and nonetheless, that's why holding on to 4.22% gains as of now as well. IndusInd Bank, another one from the banking space, actually holding on to good gains after its Q3 updates, managed to sustain those gains all through the day as well. Even now, also holding on to good gains there. Let's pull up some of these oil refiners, BPCL, HPCL, all these a bit subdued in trade. That is something that didn't do quite well in trade today. And HPCL, BPCL, all of them subdued in trade even as of now, after we've seen crude oil prices. That impacts these companies as well. So crude oil prices surely seeing an impact on that front. Other than that, we have a downgrade that came in from CLSA for HPCL, BPCL as well as IOC. All the three names declining in trade after the downgrade that we saw coming in from CLSA. Torrent Power, that too is not doing quite well in trade, actually, I beg your pardon. Strong gains that we saw for Torrent Power as well. 47,350 crores MOU that they have signed as well. So Torrent Power is among the top gainers today, coming in, and 8% almost uptick that we saw at one point of time. Let's move on, pull up the charts from an auto name. We have Tata Motors that held on to good gains as well. And Tata Motors was mainly after JP Morgan upgraded the stock, and 2.1% uptick almost intraday that we saw coming in was at the high. As of now, also managing to hold on to gains of 1.82% as well. Let's pull up Century Textiles. We did have a presentation that came in from the company, and post that, we've seen a spike up coming in for the stock at one point of time, up as much as 13%. As of now, also holding on to good gains. That's Century Textiles for y'all. In the last few minutes of trading session, what we saw was the defense names picking up pace, because the Defense Ministry has actually signed an 802 crore military equipment contracts with some of these companies. So defense companies, whether you look at a BEML or whether you look at Jupiter Wagons, all of them too are holding on to very, very strong gains. So yes, all in all, we've seen a very strong move coming in the markets today as well. Sector wise, let's pull up Nifty Auto. That too was a bit in the flip-floppy day of trade. Very flat in trade, Nifty Auto, but Tata Motors was an outperformer that came in the Nifty Auto space.
Okay, and on that note, Vinny, thanks for that. We'll wind it up right here on this edition of Closing Trades.